Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're zeroing in on something, well, super practical. How we talk about our jobs, our work, our careers, all in English.
Right.
We've pulled together some great resources to really help boost your confidence here.
Absolutely. Whether it's just, explaining your current role or maybe looking back.
Or even thinking about what's next.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's more than just knowing a few job titles, isn't it?
It really is. It's about feeling natural, sort of articulate when you're discussing this core part of your life.
Yeah. Whether you're just chatting with people you've met.
Or in something maybe a bit more formal, like a job interview.
Right.
Think about it, that question. So what do you do?
Yeah.
It just pops up all the time, doesn't it?
Constantly. Yeah.
So this deep dive, it's really designed to give you the language and maybe more importantly, that comfort level.
Exactly. To handle those conversations easily.
Yeah. We'll cover useful everyday phrases.
How to describe what you're doing right now.
Talking about your work history.
Outlining future ambitions.
And, those little tips to sound really natural when you're, talking shop.
Our goal here is to make this immediately useful for you, like really applicable. We want you to finish this feeling like you've picked up some genuinely useful tools you can, put to work straight away.
Okay, so let's dive in then. The conversation often kicks off with that classic question.
So what do you do?
Yeah, exactly. Direct, no frills. Our sources show a few common ways people answer this.
You hear simple ones, right? Like, I'm a teacher.
Or, I work in IT. Very common.
And if someone's between jobs?
They might say, I'm currently looking for a job. Just straightforward.
Or you get a bit more detail sometimes, like, I work for a small company that makes software.
Yeah, or I'm self-employed.
And students, too, they often mention part-time work.
Right, like I'm a student, but I also work part-time in a cafe.
It's interesting how these short answers, they kind of give you that basic picture pretty quickly.
They do. And you can see how some people keep it brief first, others give a bit more context right off the bat.
Yeah, different styles.
And to build on that initial answer, our resources give us some really handy expressions.
Okay.
For instance, you can say, I work in, and then the industry. So I work in education.
Simple enough. What else?
Well, if you want to explain what you're responsible for, a useful phrase is, I'm in charge of.
Okay.
I'm in charge of customer service. Or another one you hear a lot, I deal with.
I deal with clients every day. Something like that.
Exactly. And if you manage people, I manage a team of, and then the number.
I manage a team of 10 people.
Got it. These expressions, they're just great for adding a bit more, substance to that first answer.
Yeah, they let you go beyond just the job title. Give a clear picture of what the role actually, involves.
So maybe just a quick pause here for you listening. How would you describe your current job?
Yeah, try using one or two sentences. Maybe use some of those examples we just gave.
It's just a good little mental exercise, right? Gets you warmed up.
It does raise a good point, though.
Yeah.
How do we move from just knowing these phrases
to actually using them naturally without sounding like we're reading a script?
Right. And the key, I think, is just starting to play around with them.
Yeah.
Even just in your own head to begin with.
Exactly. Okay, now let's zoom in a bit more. Let's talk specific job titles within different areas or sectors.
Good idea. Our sources had some great examples here.
They did. Like in healthcare, you've got nurse, doctor,
paramedic, pharmacist, the obvious ones.
Then over in tech, you'll find software developer, web designer,
IT support specialist, data analyst, loads in tech.
Education sector includes teacher, tutor.
University lecturer, too.
Right. And if we look at hospitality.
Well, waiter or waitress, chef, hotel receptionist.
Bartender.
Yeah, and construction.
Common ones there are electrician, plumber, builder.
Architect.
What's helpful about this list, I think, is just how broad it is.
Totally. It covers a really wide range of industries, different kinds of roles you might encounter.
You can probably find some connection to at least one of these areas, right?
I'd think so. And how do they fit into a conversation?
Well, the sources give us an example. I work as a web developer.
Okay.
And then they add, I build websites and fix bugs.
Okay. So it's straightforward, tells you the job.
And gives a quick idea of what they actually do.
Notice how it pairs the job title with just a simple explanation of the main tasks.
Yeah, it's a really effective way, isn't it?
Yeah.
Communicates the role clearly.
Definitely.
Okay, another quick practice moment for you. Pick one of those job titles we just mentioned.
Anyone.
And try to describe, just in your own words, what that person might do.
Don't worry about perfection, just give it a go.
Thinking about these specific roles, it really helps expand your vocabulary, doesn't it?
It does. Vocabulary related to different professions.
Yeah.
Super useful in all sorts of conversations.
All right, so we've got ways to answer, what do you do? We've looked at job titles. Now, let's dig a little deeper. How to talk about your job in more detail. Like, what does your day-to-day actually look like?
Ah, yeah. This is where you can really give someone a clearer sense of your professional life.
Right.
Beyond just the title.
Exactly. Instead of just saying, I'm a teacher, you can start explaining what that involves day to day.
Makes it much more real.
Totally. And our resources have some great phrases for this, too.
Like what?
You can start with, my job involves, and then just list some responsibilities.
Okay.
Or, a typical day for me is, and you can kind of walk someone through your usual routine.
Right.
I spend most of my time. That's good for highlighting your main activities.
Makes sense. What about schedules?
Yeah, you might say, I usually start work at, or if you work remotely, I work from home 3 days a week.
These phrases give you a nice framework then for describing your daily work life in a, well, structured way.
Let's look at a couple of examples from the sources.
Okay.
My job involves helping customers and dealing with complaints. Pretty clear. Or, a typical day for me starts at 8 a.m., I check my emails, and then join a team meeting.
Right. Gives you a sequence.
And for someone maybe more technical, I spend most of my time writing code and testing websites.
What stands out there is the level of specific detail.
Yeah, it makes the job much more tangible, easier to understand.
Definitely.
Our resources also list some useful general work vocabulary, things we all kind of encounter.
Ah, yes. Good to cover those.
We've got salary, your pay.
Obvious but important.
Shift, referring to your work hours. Night shift, morning shift.
Full-time versus part-time.
Yep, that distinction. Remote, meaning working from home.
Very relevant now.
Commute, your journey to work. Workload, how much you have to do.
That's a big one for many people.
And deadline, that final time to finish something.
Knowing this kind of vocabulary is pretty essential for talking about different aspects of your job, the conditions, all that.
It really is. So here's another little challenge for you listening.
Go.
Try describing what you typically do in a workday. Start with the phrase, in my job, I usually.
What kind of tasks fill up your day?
Remember, the aim here isn't perfection, not a complete minute-by-minute rundown.
No, it's just getting comfortable using these phrases to talk about your own experiences.
Exactly. Now, let's switch gears a bit. Let's talk about past jobs.
Right. Knowing how to discuss your work history, really valuable.
Yeah, whether it's just casual chat or, maybe a job application or interview.
Being able to talk about previous roles, it shows how you've gained experience, how your career has, well, progressed.
Definitely. Our sources give us some good ways to phrase this.
Such as?
You could say, I used to work as a HA.
Right, or before this job, I was a HA. That's a common one.
Exactly. And if you want to mention the company, maybe something like, I worked for a small company that...
And then just briefly say what they did, yeah.
And to highlight what you learned, this is important, I gained a lot of experience in.
That's a great phrase for framing it positively.
It is. These phrases just help you frame your past work clearly, concisely, highlighting the key info.
Got it. Any examples?
Yeah, a couple here. Before becoming a teacher, I worked in customer service.
Okay.
And then adds detail. I used to answer phones and help people with their accounts.
Ah, so it gives context.
Right. Or this one. I worked at a supermarket during university.
Mm-hmm.
It helped me learn how to deal with people and manage time.
Nice. So it points out a key skill that was developed there, not just the job title.
Precisely. Okay, time for you to practice again.
Another one. Okay.
Think about a job you had in the past. Try telling that little part of your work story.
Maybe used to or before.
Yeah. What did you do? And maybe what's one thing you feel you took away from that experience?
Being able to articulate your past work history. It's a really important part of building your overall professional narrative, isn't it?
It really is. Okay, let's look ahead now to the future.
Future plans, dream jobs.
Yeah, talking about that stuff can be really interesting in conversations, too.
For sure. Sharing your aspirations gives people a sense of your ambitions, where you're hoping to go.
And our sources provide several ways to talk about goals.
Let's hear them.
You can say, in the future, I'd like to. And then just state what you're aiming for.
Simple.
Or a bit bolder, maybe. My dream job is. Followed by your ideal role.
Nice one.
If you have a specific field in mind, I hope to work in, works well.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're currently studying for something specific,
then you could say, I'm studying to become a like doctor or engineer.
Exactly. These phrases cover a good range of ways to express those future interests.
Yeah, whether they're like concrete plans or maybe more aspirational.
For example, in the future, I'd like to start my own business.
Common ambition.
Or, I'm currently learning English because I want to work abroad. Connects learning to a goal.
Makes sense.
And a simple but powerful one. My dream job is to become a pilot.
These examples are just direct, clear. They communicate the person's future goals effectively.
They do. So, for your practice this time, think about what you'd like to do. Career-wise, down the line, try saying, I hope to, or I'm planning to.
What are you working towards? What's the goal?
And even if your plans are still a bit hazy.
That's okay.
Yeah, practicing these phrases will just help you feel more comfortable talking about your ambitions when it comes up.
Good point.
Okay, finally, let's touch on some language that's particularly useful in, say, job interviews.
Yes. And just for sounding professional in English generally.
Right. Job interviews often require a slightly more, maybe formal or specific way of talking about your experience and skills.
Definitely a different context.
Our sources highlight some really common interview questions you might hear.
The classics.
Pretty much. Can you tell me about yourself?
The opener. Always.
What are your strengths and weaknesses?
Tricky one sometimes.
Why do you want to work here?
Crucial to have a good answer for that.
And the future one again. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Yeah, these are pretty foundational questions, aren't they? Most people will bump into them when interviewing.
Absolutely. And we also get some useful examples of how you might respond.
Okay, like for strength.
You could say something like, I'm hardworking, organized, and I work well in a team. Hits a few key points.
Standard but effective.
To show you're keen to learn, I'm passionate about learning and improving my skills.
Shows initiative. Good.
And to express how you can benefit the company, maybe. I believe I can bring a lot of value to your company.
Right. These responses are quite concise. They highlight those positive qualities employers are generally looking for.
They do. And a really key piece of advice here from the sources and just generally.
What's that?
Practice answering these common interview questions out loud.
Yes. Crucial.
Even if you don't have an interview lined up right now, just getting comfortable saying these kinds of things, it really boosts your confidence for when the time comes.
Oh, absolutely. Rehearsing your answers helps you refine the language, feel more prepared.
Less nervous, maybe.
Yeah, much less nervous when you're actually in that real interview situation.
Okay, well, that brings us towards the end of our deep dive into talking about jobs in English.
We've covered quite a bit of ground.
We have. From describing what you do now,
What you've done in the past,
talking about future goals,
how to discuss your daily work routines.
useful phrases for interviews,
Yeah.
and really emphasized how important it is just to speak with confidence.
Our aim through all this has really been to give you a practical set of vocabulary and phrases.
Yeah, things you can start using right away in your conversations.
Hopefully.
So here's your final challenge for today.
The last one.
Record yourself answering that question, what do you do?
Okay.
And then just add, in the future, I hope to.
Right. Combine the present and future.
Exactly. It's a simple exercise, but like our sources suggest, you might be surprised. Just putting these words into practice can make you feel a lot more comfortable.
It really can. And remember, the more you practice using these phrases, just in your everyday conversations.
The more natural they'll become.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to make mistakes either. It's all just part of the learning process.
Couldn't agree more. Thanks so much for joining us for this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Keep speaking, keep practicing, and keep building that confidence. You've totally got this.